What's going on? Thank you once again for joining us for another off-season episode of Always Talking Ball. I'm Tyler Noe. He's Lance Barton. Today we are talking quarterbacks, the most important position on the field on a football team, arguably.
In
And we're going to be
sports.
talking in sports. Yeah, we're going to be talking quarterback battles. Obviously, we got a lot of battles out there. Quarterback play as a whole last year, Lance, in 2024. Give me your thoughts on just kind of how the quarterback position fared last year.
Left a lot to be desired, man. From what we've used to seeing across college football. I mean, really over the last decade plus, really last decade, the completely spread offense in general and opening up the offense. The offense is operating at warp speed. We've kind of seen offenses kind of take a little bit of a step back as far more huddle, more getting to the line of scrimmage and changing the play multiple times, by seeing what the defense presents to you. So it's not as much of the crazy high tempo, like even Tennessee, like Josh Heupel's offense, they're usually operating at warp speed. They didn't this last year. We're seeing that really across college football in general right now. And quarterback play, I mean, dude, think about it. I mean, Will Howard played really well in the playoffs, and he played really well for Ohio State this last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, is he Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama, or some of the just crazy elite quarterback play that we've seen over college football over the last several years? No, he's not. And really, dude, when we had the Final Four teams in the college football playoffs, just had guys that were solid leaders, smart, not out there turning the ball over a ton, like a Riley Leonard that just fit well within the system that Notre Dame wanted him to run. Will Howard, again, played really well for Ohio State. But Drew Aller, I mean, he was really good against the lesser competition, and he did not play as well when they stepped up and played the better teams that they played against this past year. The Notre Dames, the Ohio States, didn't play well in those games. Didn't play well really in the playoffs in general. I mean, it's just interesting how it seems like that it's kind of taken a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, those guys were all old leaders. All three of them are gone. Four of them probably could be gone if Aller declared for the NFL. So, it's kind of a changing of the guard for this upcoming season.
It is. And as far as this upcoming season, dude, there's a lot of exciting young quarterbacks that are very talented, very highly rated coming out of high school. Tons of just excitement surrounding them in general this year. I mean, again, if you talk to Ohio State fans, I mean, Julian Sands, the next coming of like Peyton Manning or something for their quarterback position there. I mean, there's just, Bryce Underwood at Michigan, Keelan Russell at Alabama, just a lot of good young quarterback play across the board. DJ Lagway, I mean, I know we saw him some this past year. Nico saw him obviously this past year at Tennessee. There's just good young quarterback play like across the board that I think that we're going to see this year. I think it's going to take a step in the direction that we were more used to before this last year. Really across the board, like all power conferences and even in the G5. I think there's going to be some ridiculous numbers being put up this year by offenses and some of the quarterbacks and the elite quarterback play that we're going to see across the board. I mean, dude, I've got to ask. This just makes me think of this. We're talking about let's just go by conference by conference. You want to do that? Just kind of like conference and talk about like quarterback play going into this year.
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot right out of the gate. I'll answer my own question too after you hear. Who do you think the best quarterback going into the Big Ten play is this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you put a poll out on X or something, and shoot, we may do that later, but you'll probably see the majority of the people say Drew Aller, right? He's one of the most seasoned guys in the Big Ten. But I think you got to look at guys like Luke Altmaier, right? He had a good season at Illinois. You got to look at Fernando Mendoza, who transferred in from Cal to play for Curt Cignetti at IU. So
he's gonna put up numbers in that Shanahan Cignetti offense, man.
Yeah, and then like you said, man, you got some unknowns like Mikey Keene. at Michigan. I mean, we're going to talk quarterback battles here in a second, but him and Bryce Underwood are going to go head to head in spring and summer and see who comes out on top. But he put up some solid numbers while at Fresno State. You mentioned Julian Sayin already. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, you got guys like Dante Moore, right? Who, he's shown some potential at Oregon, and he'll be able to kind of showcase more of that, assuming he wins the job. Guys who aren't going to be in battles like him, maybe like Damon Williams, some young quarterbacks like that in Washington.
I'm glad you brought him up. Like that is a team in general that I think's ascending in the right direction. And old Jed Fish's bunch out there in Seattle. And Damon Williams and Julian Sayin and Dante Moore, those three especially, young quarterbacks, all like, again, we need to see, like we saw Damon Williams some this past year. Like he played some spot duty and they brought him in and had some like packages for him and some series for him. And he obviously played in the bowl game. But Sayin and Damon Williams and Dante Moore, all three of those could be some big time quarterbacks this coming up year, and dual threat ability, their ability to run. I expect big things out of all three of those guys, especially with the talent that they're going to have around them and the coaching staff that's pulling the triggers, it's calling plays for these guys. Are also going to be really good.
How about one we saw at the end of last year, Jade Mayava at USC with Lincoln Riley? Obviously, they were trailing in that game, but he put up 360 against Notre Dame's defense and Notre Dame's secondary. So with Lincoln Riley pulling the trigger, hopefully getting some talent in there from some of the skill position players they lost, he could be a factor too.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think that overall, I think the Big Ten quarterback play will probably be in better hands. We haven't even mentioned like Raiola, who obviously had his moments this last year at Nebraska. Could see him doing well again in year two, especially in year two in Dana Holgerson's system. And with some of the talent he's going to have around him at the receiver position coming back this next year as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a better year overall for the Big Ten and quarterback play.
What do you think about the ACC? I know we got, no battles probably for Cade Klubnik, probably for Carson Beck. If he's healthy, he'll probably win that job at Miami. Kevin Jennings is pretty solid there at SMU. Who else can you think of that, comes to mind in the ACC? Because, that definitely was not a strong suit for the ACC last year.
No, it wasn't, man. I mean, it's really those three, right? I agree with you there. You just mentioned those three. It's got to be those three. I mean, I know people are going to kind of bang on Beck a little bit because of the year he had this past year, and some people kind of view him almost as not as likable, especially with some of this, antics like off the field and all that. But, I mean, Beck and Jennings and Klubnik, I mean, that's really the three horses at the top for that list. But, I mean, Haynes King coming back the year that he had this past year in that Buster Faulkner offense. A guy that every single person that covers this sport talked about going into this past year that was so high on, and he just kept getting bit by the injury bug, was Kyron Drones.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect Kyron Drones to have a nice bounce back year this year if he can stay healthy. And a dude that kind of came out of nowhere this last year, man, he kind of got bit by the injury bug too at the end of the year. But dude, at one point, I mean, he was as hot as any QB in the ACC there for a little while and just kept winning games in that Cade Bell offense at Pitt. And that's all Eli Holstein.
Mm-hmm.
Very talented. I mean, he was a high-rated 4-star. He was the second best quarterback recruiting rankings wise in the state of Louisiana behind a guy by the last name Manning when he came out of high school. And so, I mean, Holstein has a ton of talent, and I could see Holstein having a big year this next year. Cade Bell, that offense that he runs at Pitt, is a really, really good offensive system and very quarterback friendly. So I could see Holstein having a big year for Pitt as well.
How about I'll throw two names at you. Darian Mensah, transfer to Duke, coming on a 9-win team that
millionaire.
They didn't win 9 games because of Malik Murphy.
Agreed.
So he should improve their quarterback play. And then I'm going to butcher this guy's last name, but he was an Oregon commit. Fresh. He hasn't even played football yet. He's Oregon commit. He transferred.
I would butcher it.
Jaron Kiawe Sagapulu-Tele. We'll get it down. We'll get it down by the start of the season, but he's not decommitting from Oregon and committing to Cal if they didn't probably just guarantee him Like, he's going to be the front runner to start that job as a true freshman. It's Cal, it's Justin Wilcox. But obviously, we saw what Mendoza did last year. So, with this guy's a 5-star recruit going to Cal. He's from Hawaii. He's got that Polynesian lineage and everything. So, he could be kind of a guy that comes on the scene in the ACC and stirs some things up.
I don't disagree. He was actually, too, like, it was weird.
Let's call him JKS for now.
There we go, JKS. He was actually, like, supposed to go to Cal before he committed to Oregon. And then after he committed to Oregon, he, of course, went back to Cal. I think he probably figured out pretty quick when he went to Oregon, like, yeah, like, Dante Moore is going to be the quarterback here.
Yeah.
So, like, probably, I'm sure Cal found some nice little NIL package there to lure him back.
Probably stole from the research fund.
Exactly.
Yeah. A sneaky good quarterback play coming back in the Big 12 conference. Rattle off the list of names we were talking about.
Bro. Yeah, I don't even know that it's sneaky, bro. I agree with you, man. Like you and I were talking, we were just talking shop not too long ago, and talking about some of the Big 12 quarterbacks and stuff, and how like that league in general, man, it's got a special place in our heart. I feel like we were calling it America's Conference before everybody else was calling it America's Conference. But, that's a debate for another day. But obviously, your boy, the absolute dog himself, and Sam Leavitt at Arizona State coming back for the Fun Devils. I mean, that dude in year 2 in Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Arroyo's system with some of the receivers that they're going to have coming back. I think everybody expects just big time play out of him. And dude, some of the lists that you've got coming out of the best quarterbacks going into the year, this next year, dude, some have Sam Leavitt number 1.
Yeah.
On this list. And hey, maybe he'll prove it. He's a confident kid and plays really well. But Jalen Daniels coming back for like his 13th year at Kansas. Super talented if he stays healthy. I mean, he's as talented and as tough to stop as anybody out there with his dual threat ability.
Yep.
Avery Johnson, speaking of dual threat, Avery Johnson at Kansas State. Everybody was high on him going into this past year. Has a little trouble slinging the football around, but he's raw, man. He's just a great athlete. Has tons of talent. I'm sure he'll improve throwing the football more. They lost their offensive line / offensive coordinator to the Dallas Cowboys, but their co-offensive coordinator, Matt Wells, who works with quarterbacks, will now be calling plays for Kansas State. So I think that helps out Avery Johnson a little bit. You've got Rocco Becht. We're a Rocco Becht stand podcast here, so what we think of old Rocco Becht. The first 2 years that he's had as a signal caller for the Clones, just been fantastic for Iowa State 2 years in a row. Wouldn't expect anything different out of him going into year 3. Jake Retzlaff, I mean, the year that he had this past year for BYU, with what they've got coming back, me and you both are high on the Cougs going into this next year. Did we have them in our preseason top?
I think they're 11 or 12 in the top 12 right now.
Yeah, and our never too early top 12. I think we had them around 11 or 12. So, I expect big things out of him.
Yeah.
Hey, remember this name that everybody pretty much dubbed the second coming of like a right-handed Tua Tagovailoa or something, and that Noah Fafita guy? Yeah, he's back at Arizona. Obviously, he doesn't have Tet McMillan to sling it to anymore, but still, tons of talent for Fafita. And then your boy from your alma mater heading out to Boulder. Fight for the QB1 position, and we'll get to that more here in a minute. But Caden Salter, I mean, can't argue the numbers that the dude's put up in his time at Liberty under Jamie Chadwell. So, I mean, that's just some we named off the top of our head there. I'm sure there's others that we probably possibly could have missed. But, I mean, the quarterback play in general in the Big 12 this next year is going to be fantastic.
Lastly, the SEC. We're going to talk 3 specific quarterback battles here in a second. But guys who won't have to compete, obviously you got Arch Manning. He's going to win that job at Texas. Garrett Nussmeier's coming back for what seems like his 8th year at LSU. He'll be back. You got John Mateer, who transferred into Oklahoma, and he's going to be teaming back up with Ben Arbuckle from Ohio or from Washington State. DJ Lagway, he's going to get that job at Florida. Marcel Reed, A&M. Lenore Sellers, another guy there. But Nico, you got some stat quarterbacks in the SEC.
Hey, don't forget Diego Pavia.
Diego
Back
Pavia.
for his
Gosh, yeah.
30th year.
Talk about just sticking in college forever. He's going to win every litigation battle he ever faces again. So,
Yeah, he's a winner.
But yeah, I mean, you got stacked names. You got guys who obviously have a lot of talent who are coming back. They haven't technically, they haven't proved a lot, right? I mean, Arch hasn't proved a lot. Nuss has won some games. He's a gunslinger. He's going to throw some picks. Nico, for everyone, including us, being high on him. Obviously, they went to the playoff, but he struggled in some bigger games.
Yeah.
Lenore Sellers is still kind of green, man. Like, he had a really good year last year, but just still fresh. Like, won some big games down the stretch. Won at beat Clemson.
He's got to improve throwing the football. He's a great athlete. He can throw. I'm not saying he can't throw, but I think even the most diehard of South Carolina fan would say that, like, yeah, he's got to improve and progress more in throwing the football.
Yeah. So I mean, you got the talent there, but who's? Am I leaving anybody off there?
No, man. I think that's a good list. List there. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of, like you just said, you just hit it. There's a lot of unproven guys that tons of talent, and we're going to get into a few of those here in a minute. When we talk quarterback battles. But man, we got to throw some love to the G5 too, because there's some really good quarterback play in the G5 level as well. I mean, Blake Horvath, just a stat stuffing Blake Horvath at Navy will be coming back. Byron Brown at South Florida. He kind of battled a little bit of the injury bug this past year. He'll be back at South Florida. A name that I am very high on, that I don't know how many games they're going to win, but if this guy stays healthy, don't be surprised at the end of the year you look at a top 10 list of quarterbacks and their overall stats as far as passing yards and passing touchdowns and all that, because of the system he's going to be running. Zach Kitley's the new head coach, offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. He's the new head coach at Florida Atlantic. And he's got him a quarterback in Caden Veltkamp, who threw for over 3,000 yards last year at Western Kentucky. He transferred down to beautiful Boca to go sling some tutties down there at FAU. I think that's going to be a great combination there together, coach and quarterback. And obviously, old Dan Money Mullen, who's now the UNLV head coach. The combination of Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji, I think, is going to be a fantastic contrast of styles and combination at QB. I think you'll see both of them playing quite a bit for UNLV this coming up here. Calandria was at UVA this past year. Very talented, solid quarterback, got a good arm. And obviously Orji's like another running back playing quarterback. And obviously Dan Mullen has had a good history with dual threat quarterbacks. So I think that'll be a good combo at UNLV.
Yeah. You got guys like Maddox Madsen coming back to Boise, slinging it for Spencer Danielson. And, there's going to be some good quarterback play in the G5. It's not going to always go noticed throughout the year. We'll try to keep you updated as much as we can, because honestly, it's the way of the world, man. A lot of these G5 quarterbacks who are going to have good years in 2025, they're going to be playing for your Power 4 school in 2026.
Yep.
So it's just kind of the way of the world right now with NIL and the transfer portal. So we all get that. Let's talk some quarterback battles, though. Out of all the teams we mentioned, there's about 7 here that we highlighted, and we're going to talk, who's going to win these quarterback battles? Who do we think should win these quarterback battles? And then who is likely to win it? Who do we think the coaches are going to pick, right? We're going to start off from the top rope, man. We're going to start off with one of the ones that everyone is going to have their eyes on. After Jalen Milroe is leaving Tuscaloosa, he's leaving it in the hands of Ty Simpson or Austin Mack or the incoming freshman phenom, Keelan Russell. You know where I stand on this one, where I would pull the trigger personally. I think I would roll with Keelan Russell. I think I would get him as much playing time with guys like Ryan Williams as possible, get him a good connection going into this year. And I think with Ryan Grubb coming, to Tuscaloosa, I think it's going to be good for all these quarterbacks. I think I would go with Keelan Russell. I tend to go against the grain. I think the coaches are going to choose Austin Mack. I think everyone thinks it's Ty Simpson, and I just think from what we've seen from Ty Simpson on the field, And I know you talk about the locker room and all that stuff last year. I just don't know. I think Austin Mack is their boy, right? I mean, he's their guy. Like they brought him to Alabama with them. Like, and they're so familiar with him. He's familiar with them. I think he has a leg up on Ty Simpson.
Yeah, I think that Simpson, obviously, because it's the same offense. Like Ryan Grubb coming in, like the offense isn't changing. Like the DeBoer, Grubb, Sheridan, it's all the same. It's just a guy that's like elite at calling plays that can make adjustments during games is going to be the one calling it now. But Mac is a huge project. He is, without a doubt, the guy that like at the NFL combines that shows up to the underwear Olympics that everybody drools over because he's 6'5", 6'6", 230, 40, whatever, can throw a football through a car wash and it won't get wet. That's Austin Mack. He's just still kind of raw. And I mean, dude, if he can figure it out between the ears, and he's accurate at throwing the football, yeah, I could absolutely see him winning the battle. I still personally believe it. I still personally believe it's going to be Ty Simpson, man.
I'm interested to hear what you, as an Alabama fan, who you would want to see.
I mean, obviously,
you're on record of saying you think it's going to be Simpson, right?
Yeah.
But who would you want it to be from August 31st or August 30th, 2025?
I mean, the fan in me and the excitement that will be surrounding it. Obviously, the 5-star highest recruit ever. This is a mouthful, by the way. Think of all the recruits that Nick Saban brought in. The highest composite recruit in the history of Alabama football is Keelan Russell out of Duncanville High School in Texas. And if you're listening to this, if you want to go look up just some gaudy high school numbers, go look at what this man did at Duncanville High School in Texas in his career. The wins, the yards, the touchdowns, the rushing, all of it. That would be exciting. But what I think is going to happen here is I think this is going to be a situation like we've seen in the past with kind of like Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence at Clemson years ago. They brought in Trevor Lawrence. Everybody thought he might be the guy coming in. Kelly Bryant ended up being the starter, and about halfway through the year, at some point during the year, they made the move to Trevor Lawrence. I think that there is a big possibility something like that could happen here. The fact that Bama goes week 1 to Tallahassee to Doak Campbell, I don't know that they'll want to throw Keelan Russell out there to the Wolves like that right out of the gate. If they do, obviously, man, like you've said, that speaks volumes of where they believe he is in his progression, and they believe he's the best man for the job. I think it's going to be Ty Simpson starting out. If he plays really well, obviously he's going to be the guy. I think it's his to lose, personally. I think going into camp, I know they're going to say that everybody's on equal footing, and they probably are. But I still think it's Ty Simpson's to lose going into this camp. I mean, based off everything you hear out of Tuscaloosa, they like Simpson, man. And
yeah, I do think if you roll Russell out there week 1 and he wins the battle in fall,
he might be the only quarterback on the roster.
I was gonna say that. Yeah. Simpson, either or both, Simpson and Mack will be not in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I don't know why they would stick around. Like, in today's world, why would they? In that situation, maybe Mack would stick around. I don't know, but so that's a good point, Tyler. With that being in mind, I absolutely think it's going to be Ty Simpson starting out because if you trot Keelan Russell out there as QB1 week 1, they might have to start holding tryouts for who the backup quarterback's going to be.
Problem I see is that I just, out of those 3 quarterbacks, I think Ty Simpson is the least talented. And obviously, I'm an outsider looking in. You know a heck of a lot more about the quarterback battle than I do. But from an outside perspective, I think he's got the least talent of those guys. He may be the most polished as far as ready to play. But again, it's not a make or break year for Kalen DeBoer, really. But you throw Ty Simpson out there week 1 and you lose to Florida State, or something happens week 2 or 3, the natives in Tuscaloosa are going to get a little restless, and they're going to be like, "What are we doing here with Ty Simpson as our quarterback?" I mean, look how they quick turned on Jalen Milroe last year.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. No matter who the quarterback is, even if it's Keelan Russell, everybody's excited about him. But I can promise you, as a Bama fan, I know how this works, and so does everybody else probably. even if he doesn't do well, it'll quickly turn from the excitement of young 5-star freshman to like you said, the natives getting restless really quick. And as far as the talent, just last thing on this, I mean, Simpson was a 5-star coming out of high school, and he's got wheels too. Like he can run. He's he is a dual threat. He was a dual threat coming out of high school. So I'm interested to see if they like that ability of him being able to add a little bit in the run game too. Because Mac is not. Mac is your prototypical stand in the pocket, deliver the football type of guy. And
That's what Michael
Russell and
Penix
Simpson,
was.
do what?
That's what Michael Penix was.
But Penix could run.
Yeah.
And they did run him some. He was an
Tore a
athlete.
bunch of ACLs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But Russell and Simpson do have a dual threat ability, so I think that'd be interesting to see what they end up going with there. Hey man, we don't have to go too far.
Yeah.
We just have to go a little trip down Highway 280.
I was gonna say, speaking of high school 5-stars.
Exactly, just a little trip down Highway 280, the loveliest little village on the plains, to Auburn, and old brother Hugh has hitched his wagon to either a transfer from Stanford, an incoming true freshman 5-star from the state of Mississippi in Deuce Knight, who everybody obviously in Auburn is very excited about. Every fan base on the planet, when you get an incoming 5-star freshman quarterback, you're always excited about it. Don't blame you. And former 5-star out of high school, Gatorade National Player of the Year, who I was very high on going into this last year, and he made me look foolish, is Jackson Arnold. And I think that I don't think this is Ashton Daniels. I may be an idiot. I may look like an idiot after this. After saying this, I don't even think he should be on Pete Nako's graphic as he's not going to be the starter. And again, if he does, people can clip this and make fun of me. It's fine. But I think it's going to be either Jackson Arnold or Deuce Knight. And again, I don't think they're going to start Deuce Knight right out of the gate on the road at Baylor. I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah. I think this is going to be Jackson Arnold. And we've talked about this in the past a little bit, so maybe repeat myself if you're a returning listener here on this. But Jackson Arnold was running a certain system and was very good at it, obviously. He's a Gatorade National Player of the Year in the state of Texas coming out of high school. He went to Oklahoma to run Jeff Lebby's offense. That's why he went there. Jeff Lebby gets the head coaching job at Mississippi State, and I think if you got Brent Venables behind closed doors right now, he'd tell you what a mistake it was to kind of go to more of a pro-style type attack at Oklahoma this past year and not run that more up-tempo RPO, less reading, let the quarterback be an athlete and go make plays. And, of course, the amount of injuries that Oklahoma had around them. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't care how good of a quarterback you are. And name me a quarterback that would be still elite in college football that lost almost their entire offensive line and lost the top 5 wide receivers on their depth chart. I don't know how many would still be good.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to make excuses for Arnold, but I think that's a fair assessment to say that we can evaluate him more this coming up year with Singleton that they got in from Georgia Tech to transfer in, who was the number 1 wide receiver in the transfer portal. Obviously, Cam Coleman and the group of receivers that Auburn had this past year that was solid that they brought in a recruiting class last year. It's going to be a lot better of an evaluation of Jackson Arnold this year, running an RPO up-tempo type system that he's more comfortable with better players around him because of the injuries that Oklahoma had last year.
Yeah, this is one where I actually line up on who I think should get the job and who I think will get the job, and it's Jackson Arnold. I just think Deuce Knight is still a little more raw than Keelan Russell to me.
Yep.
From the tape that I've watched. And, yeah, like you mentioned, Jackson Arnold, in the bright games and when they played Tennessee last year on, primetime ABC, yeah, got a little too bright for him. The lights got a little too bright. And now, was that a reason to go to Michael Hawkins and then to stick with Michael Hawkins in some of these games where they were just getting killed and they wouldn't even look at Jackson Arnold? And stories were coming out that, Arnold was committed to the team and he was, practicing hard, and he was ready to play whenever they were going to him. They finally did go back to him. But it just seemed like it was a little too late. Everyone thought he was going to go to Mississippi State in the transfer portal. But I think kind of, the situation there, obviously Auburn's a little more ready to win right now than Mississippi State is. So he's going to go play for Hugh Freeze. I think he will win the job. The Ashton Daniels transfer there was a little confusing to me, but hey, I mean, he must have got, some sort of NIL deal.
Yeah, he's from Georgia too, so not far. I mean, Auburn's right on the Georgia state line, and he's not far from where he grew up. And if you're him, I mean, if you believe in yourself, I mean, and if he thinks he is good, I mean, why wouldn't you think that you can't go beat out, if you're him, that you can't go compete and beat out Jackson Arnold?
Right.
But I don't think he's going to win the job though. Let's head up to Boulder.
Yeah.
Coach Prime and the Buffs.
Still there. Surprising to me. He's still sticking around in Colorado. I guess Jerry Jones and the Cowboys didn't really want him, which is crazy, but sure.
Yeah, and that and they've, I think this one is a legit battle.
Yeah.
I do think that Julian Lewis, the incoming freshman, has every chance to win this job.
Yeah.
Starting out of the gate with your boy Caden Salter from Liberty. Obviously, Salter put up some crazy numbers, great dual threat ability. And, I mean, they're going to have some solid receivers to sling it to there at Colorado again this coming up year. So, I mean, Salter obviously is a lot different type of a quarterback than Shedeur was. He's not your pocket passing, try to distribute the football to all the receivers across the board. So they're going to have to change up the offense probably a little bit, the style of play that they're going to have if he's going to be the guy. Lewis is more of that type of quarterback. So, again, this could be a situation where early on in the season you see both of them getting a chance to play and let them decide it on the field, who the better quarterback is. I could probably see that being a thing. But that's going to be interesting to watch this spring, though, to see who wins, to see who's competing and possibly winning this job.
Yeah, to me, I think that Salter kind of peaked in that 2023 season where they went undefeated. They got the Fiesta Bowl bid. They got the nod there. He went to play against Oregon, kind of, got exposed a little bit, but that was bound to happen. Everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall there when they were playing Oregon. But yeah, I mean, it's another thing where you look at their beginning of their season schedule. They got to play Georgia Tech week 1. And so that's going to be a tough test for them. We'll see what they do. They get Delaware and they get Wyoming in non-conference, but it does seem like a prime move that he would kind of just tap Juju, starter from the beginning. He saw one of their rivals, Nebraska, do that last year and tap Raiola, and then all Raiola did at home was just, lay the smack down on Colorado.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think that is a true battle. It's a, 1v1 battle. Lewis, obviously, was a very highly recruited, guy coming out of high school, committed to USC. So for them to steal him,
and they're not afraid to play freshmen.
Exactly. Either. Yeah. And and he'll have some guys to throw to. So we'll see what Colorado does. Down in Athens, Georgia, you got another 1v1 battle with Gunnar Stockton and Ryan Puglisi. The people of Athens and the dog fans out there, they know a lot more about Puglisi than the average casual fan does. They're all really high on the guy. The fact that he has stuck around, through the Carson Beck years, through Gunnar Stockton getting the nod in the playoffs last year, he's still there. Kind of shows you the confidence that dude has in himself, that he's not, looking to transfer to another SEC school or somewhere else. But Gunnar Stockton getting the start in the playoffs last year, coming back in that SEC championship game, like that kind of gives him the leg up. I think that I just think, Kirby's not the one to make crazy quarterback decisions, right? He's going to go with a guy he's more familiar with, the guy he trusts more. And I think the guy he trusts more is going to be Stockton.
I'm with you. I think Stockton's going to win the job, but you're not lying, man. I actually did some film work not too long ago and looked up some stuff on is it Puglisi? Is that how you say it? Yeah, I looked at, and he's from the state of Connecticut, high-rated 4-star. out of the state of Connecticut, which made his way down to Athens. So again, obviously the kid's got a lot of confidence. Could have gone probably to a lot of places in the country, and he chose to go to Georgia when Carson Beck was there, when Gunnar Stockton was coming in there as well. And dude, Puglisi can absolutely freaking sling it. The ball just jumps out of his hand. But I'm with you. I do think Stockton's going to win the job, but I think it could be an interesting deal there with Puglisi that it'll be one of those rare occasions in the year of our Lord 2025 here in college football where you see like a Mac Jones situation where you see someone sit there for 4 or 5 years and wait their turn and get just 1 year where he plays in his 1 year be at Georgia, which is probably better than playing 2 years at somewhere else type deal. So, but I think Stockton's going to win the gig there. We'll head up to Ann Arbor now to where, again, I think this is going to be a legit quarterback battle, 1v1. And I know that you've got one who's not a big household name transferring over from Fresno, but Michigan has played against Fresno, so they've seen Mikey Keene, the quarterback from Fresno, transferred in. And Keene first started as kind of a journeyman, the new age of college football, transfer here, transfer there, transfer here, transfer there. Keene started out at UCF and actually put up solid numbers in his time at UCF. He goes to Fresno, he's had a good completion percentage his entire career, but he throws some picks. He threw double-digit picks at Fresno. And so I'm just, that he's obviously got to clean that up. But with the offensive line that he's going to have, with the better, obviously, overall talent that he's going to have around him at Michigan, the new offensive system they're going to be running at Michigan is going to be a little more QB friendly as well. The power spread offense, their ability to run the football like they do, obviously bringing in Justice Haynes. Whoever ends up winning this job between Mikey King and the number 1 overall recruit in the entire country, Bryce Underwood, who obviously got paid $1 zillion to come to Michigan. I think they're going to be set up for success because obviously the Michigan quarterback position, they're not asking you to be Superman there. That's not what their system is. They want you to play within the system, make the plays that need to be made that are there for you to make the throws that are there for you to make. Don't be spectacular. Hand the rock off to these running backs. Let this offensive line work. Let our defense work. That's what Michigan wants to do. And I think whoever wins the job between these two quarterbacks, they're going to be able to do that.
I think Mikey Keene, I think we can agree, Mikey Keene is better than all the quarterbacks they had on their roster last year.
Dude, there's so many quarterbacks that we could say that are so much better than any quarterback they had on their roster last year. They didn't, we talked about it so many times, man. They didn't have a QB1 on their roster last year. And that's no offense to Davis Horn. They didn't have a QB1. And now they actually do have, like both of these guys are absolutely better options than anything that they had this past year. So, I think it is a legit battle. Obviously, I think you would agree. I'm not like, it's not like I got my finger on the pulse of the Michigan fan base or anything. You got to imagine they want Bryce Underwood to be QB1.
I would say that. I would say, guys like Dave Portnoy are not chipping in millions of dollars to see Mikey Keene go to Oklahoma week 2 and lose, right?
Yeah, that billionaire that paid all that money for him or whatever. But I got to be honest with you, man. I don't know that he cares that much. I think he just wants to make his wife happy. He gets it, man. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
If the wife wants the Big Blue to win football games, by golly, I'm gonna give out $12 million to make sure Big Blue wins football games to keep her happy.
Yeah, I mean they've got, like I mentioned, Oklahoma week 2. They got to go to Nebraska week 4. They got to go to USC in the middle of October. And you were talking about throwing Keelan Russell to the Wolves at Florida State. Like, do you necessarily do that to Bryce Underwood, regardless of how talented or how much money he's making?
I don't know, man, but I'll say this: their non-conference game that they've got on the road, it's on the road, isn't it, at Oklahoma?
Yep.
Brent Venables defense.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
I would know. A Brent Venables defense and his ability to scheme and to disguise and to confuse quarterbacks and to put pressure on quarterbacks, yeah. If I don't care how talented Underwood is, he has never, ever seen anything like that. And so week 2, if he is QB1 going to Oklahoma, that would be extremely interesting to see how he would handle just the schematics of the defense that Brent Venables is going to throw at him.
Yeah, and of course we could talk about the last game of the season when they get to host the Buckeyes this year and going against a Matt Patricia defense now for Ohio State. And if Underwood's starting by then and they win that game and he's a legend for going, up against the Buckeyes as a true freshman and winning that game and getting 5 in a row, that would be something to see as well.
Agreed.
Staying in the Midwest, go to South Bend where we got what Pete Nikos declares as a 3-way battle. I'm not really sure if it's a 3-way battle. Kenny Minchie, quarterback there, he's been there a couple years. I don't think he's got much to go up against Steve Angeli or CJ Carr. I could be wrong. Maybe he's taken a massive leap, this season.
I wonder how much Kenny Minchie paid Pete Nikos to put his name on this graphic with CJ
just put my name on there. I'm in the battle, and if I lose it, I'm going to transfer somewhere, right? So
yeah. This is CJ Carr and Angeli.
What's that?
This is CJ Carr and Angeli, right?
Yeah, it's CJ Carr and Angeli. You got Angeli who came in. Obviously, everyone knows he came in the Orange Bowl for that one drive, and like that boosted so much credit to Steve Angeli. Just that right there. He played in a lot of games this year, a lot of blowouts. He played in the Sun Bowl last year, where he put up a bunch of numbers against Oregon State. But then again, you got CJ Carr coming in. He spent, this year. They don't redshirt at Notre Dame, but he was there as a freshman. So he'll be a sophomore this year. Go ahead.
I've got to ask you, because you're a Notre Dame fan and obviously follow this program very closely. When's the last time there's been this much hype about a young quarterback like there has been for CJ Carr?
I would say probably Jimmy Clausen.
Okay. I was going to say, is it Clausen or is it Quinn? But yeah, I don't know that there was as much hype around Quinn as there was Clausen starting out. But like, dude, it's wild, man, hearing this stuff. And it's not only just Notre Dame people, man. What got my attention, like, obviously, dude, everybody loves their young, talented quarterbacks. I mean, you're not going to sit there and say, oh, he's trash. You're not going to trash your young quarterback. But when people outside the program, they go to Notre Dame practices and go to Notre Dame's bowl preps and scrimmages and such as a Kirk Herbstreit, for example, and comes out and says the mouthful that he says that I think his exact words were, he said, Notre Dame has a dog.
He said he's a program changer.
Yeah, there you go. Program changer at quarterback. And I mean, Mike Denbrock obviously is high on him as well. But hearing people outside the program say things like that gets my attention.
Yeah, and I've heard people inside the program, even last year during spring ball, he is, I mean, they were saying then he's the real deal. Obviously, Riley Leonard was there and he was going to get that job. But it was good for Carr to sit, for a year and learn that offense. It's going to, like I said, it's going to be a completely different offense than they ran with Riley Leonard. And Mike Denbrock is one of the most adaptable offensive coordinators out there. So I think the fans at Notre Dame want CJ Carr. Unfortunately for Steve Angeli, I think it will be CJ Carr.
Yeah. I think Carr's too talented, and there's just too much. When there's smoke, there's fire. There's just too much smoke there for Carr to be the guy.
Well, and I think too, I mean, I just think the way Freeman can relate to some of the guys, and I think Angeli's he's going to be there. I mean, he'll be there as the backup again, and they're going to have all the confidence in the world that he comes in if CJ Carr struggles, especially that week 1 game against Miami. They got, a couple weeks after that, A&M, they got Arkansas. So he'll be tested early for sure, and Angeli will be there as the backup. But I think it's going to be CJ Carr winning the job at Notre Dame, leading the runner-up, to the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, who we're going to end here with. Ohio State. We talked about him earlier. Julian saying, you got 5-star freshman Tavian St. Clair, and kind of the guy in the middle here who, kind of is similar to Kenny Minchie, similar to Ashton Daniels. It's Lincoln Kineholz.
Yeah, he sent a DM.
Kineholz,
yeah, whatever. I think Minchie and Kineholz sent DMs to Pete Nikos just begging to throw me on the graphic here. I'm sorry, man. I don't think this is a battle. I just don't. It's on the list. It looks good because it's Ohio State. The defending national champs. This is Julian saying he's going to be the quarterback, and it's absolutely his to lose.
And this will be his third year in college football. So if he lights it up, he spent 1 year in Alabama. He spent second year.
He spent about 30 seconds in Tuscaloosa.
Did he? He never went there.
He enrolled in.
So he was like the dude from Oregon and Cal.
Yeah, so he enrolled in January. Was in the team meeting when Saban said that he was leaving, and he transferred to Ohio State. So he was in Tuscaloosa. I mean, no shit, like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I'm not joking. Like that's how long he was there.
Okay.
So yeah, his first full year in college was this past year.
Okay, so he's got 2 years left at least, and then you got a 5-star sitting behind him like Ohio State always does.
Yep.
And so we'll see. I don't honestly. I don't know much about Tavian St. Clair because everyone's kind of been focusing on Julian Sayin.
Yeah, I mean he's very talented, obviously.
Yeah.
And whoever wins the job, I feel bad for him with the terrible receivers that they're going to have to throw the football to there at Ohio State. Good Lord, man. You literally lose the guy that breaks your all-time record in receptions in Emeka Egbuka, and just coming back is arguably not arguably the best receiver prospect of mine in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah Smith, and then you've got Ennis coming back, and you've got Carnell Tate coming back. It's an embarrassment of riches there that they're going to have to sling the football to. So I just don't think this one's a battle. I think it's going to be Julian Sayin.
Let me leave you with one final question here before we end it.
Mm-hmm.
Will 2025 be the year of the quarterback?
Yeah, I do. I think it will.
Will we see? Sorry, another question. Will we see enough good quarterback play that we will get another draft class in 2026 of like 5 or 6 guys going in the first round?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're already seeing the draft class this coming up year is so weak, apparently, that NFL scouts are already just they're excited. I'm sorry, I was going to say something that probably wasn't meant for the kids. They're getting real excited about the 2026 NFL draft class at the quarterback play, and we talked about a lot of them, man, that were in all these conferences that we just went over, and there's a lot. It's going to be an exciting year because obviously when quarterback play is up, that creates a lot of excitement across college football in general.
Yep. All right, that's it. I'm glad we got to talk quarterbacks today. Hit us up on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, X. We're on there. We're getting close to 1,000 followers, so appreciate you guys tagging along. Obviously, we're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back with more off-season episodes. We're kind of hitting you, not necessarily a cadence here, but we're just kind of hitting some episodes whenever we feel like it. So it's fun to talk ball all year round, man.
Absolutely, dude. And obviously, coaches, quarterbacks, we're not too far away, man, from list season, from good old list season. So if you know us, we love throwing some lists together. So we'll have some good ones that we'll be throwing out here in the off season. And who knows, when spring ball rolls around, we'll throw out another ATB top 12 and get the people fired up, get the people riled up, get them going. But hey, we appreciate you guys listening along with us. Obviously, we love talking about the best sport on the planet. And like Tyler said, follow us on our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Apple.
All right, we'll see you next time.